Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Ron Johnson. I'm the Director of the Office for Aboriginal People, Pro Tem. And thank you, everyone, so much for making time in your day to be able to join us today. It's very much appreciated. I'm a member of the Squamish Nation of Capilano lineage, and a couple of things before we start. I'd like to acknowledge that we're on traditional lands of the Coast Salish people, the Squamish, the Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, and Coquitlam people. A couple of housekeeping matters to deal with before we get started. If everybody could please sign in, entrance, exit, so that we're sort of going in the same path in terms of social distancing, etc. The washroom is situated over at the Maggie Benston building. Sanitizing stations are located on that table and both of the tables over there. Microphone, please don't touch the microphone or whatever. It's sort of centered in the middle so that everybody can speak, sort of. And I'd like to start now in terms of sharing a little bit about the blanket. To start, the Office for Aboriginal People commissioned a blanket which was designed in relation to Burnaby Mountain, and we wanted it to be a special blanket so that when President Petter wore it, that he'd be connected to the mountain and the good work that he's done. It's done in respect to the shared traditional values of the Coast Salish people based on land-based pedagogy and perspective. And in so doing it, it honors these lands and the good work that President Petter has done at the university during his 10-year tenure here. The blanket is woven by Rosemary Williams, who happens to be Professor Rudy Reimer's sister, who's also Squamish. And the blanket there's a number of different colors on the blanket. There's a dark blue triangle that represents Burrard Inlet and the tributaries that flow into Burrard Inlet. The light blue triangles that are on the blanket represent the sky, Father Sky. The light green triangles represent the plants on Burnaby Mountain. And the red and brown represent the beautiful arbutus tree, which was very highly recognized and used by Aboriginal people in and around the area to acknowledge important things in our culture. The bark of the tree is brown until spring, and it gets peeled in the spring. So this area is known as a place where the arbutus is plentiful and is harvested in the spring when it's harvesting time. And on that note, I should mention that the headband is white, red, and black, and it represents leadership in the Squamish Nation. On that note, please, I'd like to ask Professor Rudy Reimer Yamux to come up, and Rudy is conducting the work on behalf of the SFU Indigenous family to be able to coordinate all the work and look after the work. Thank you so much, Rudy.
Wachikatanayap Siaman Siates Yumps Queensna Squamish Old Station Rudy Reimer Holaten Station and Kiachton Squamish Tamir Tsleil-Waututh Tamir Tamusqueam Tamir Kaikate Tamir Stolo Coquitlam Tamir Ust'am Tamir. And so just wanted to open by following protocol using our ancestral language. My Squamish Nation ancestral name is Yunks. My English name is Rudy Reimer. I'm faculty here in joint appointments in archaeology and in Indigenous studies. It's good to see you all here today. And I'm glad it's not too hot because these blankets get really warm. So, and thank you, Ron, and everyone for asking me to come and do this work today. And when I was brought up When my family, we moved back to Squamish, we were told when you are asked to do cultural work like this, you never can say no. And so it's for me, it's a cultural responsibility, but it's also a professional responsibility to when my colleagues here at the university ask me to step forward and do this work. It's something I take seriously, and it's a great honor for me to be here today. And I'm glad we're doing this in a safe way and with good mind, good hearts. We're all in a safe place. So Hojka for being here. And to start the work, what we're going to do is in our culture, Stotmuth, Squamish culture, it's called Ust'am, and it's to witness. And the duty of witnesses is when we have gatherings like this, when we bring people from different communities and different backgrounds together, we ask people who are important, and they become the knowledge carriers, the history keepers, to go back to their communities and share what they had experienced here, the good work that we're doing, because we have good mind, good heart. And so with that in mind, usually we have helpers. So I wear the blanket like this across my chest over my heart. And this is to keep me calm, and the headband is to keep my head clear so that I can speak to you in a coherent fashion. And so, but today we're gonna wrap someone. They'll wear the blanket differently. We'll wrap the blanket around them. And to witness this, to Ust'am, we're gonna call 3 or 4 people. And if we were to do this in our longhouse, we'd be here for many days, many hours, and we'd have lots of food, and it would be a good party. We'd be drumming and dancing and celebrating. But of course, these are indeed strange times. So, and of course, we all have a busy schedule to keep. So we're gonna keep it to 3 or 4 people. And I'd like to call my relative, I've already forgotten your name, Sigtogden. We'd like you to witness the work today. And over here, I believe in the red bags, these are typically what we would do. The helpers would go to you and give you a gift. Nowadays, we use quarters to do this, but handling money isn't probably the best thing right now. So if you can welcome yourself to one of these beautiful gift bags here for you to ask you to witness the work today. And so another person we'd like to witness is Dr. Michelle Pigeon. And I'm going to call upon you shortly to help us with some of this work. Don't worry, it's not too serious. So, and there's 2 more people we'd like to call forward. Joanne Curry. Joanne, we'd like you to witness as well. And John Driver, a colleague from archaeology. We'd also like you to witness the work today. And so what we're going to do now is to do the actual cultural work. And Dr. Michelle Pigeon, if you could come forward, I'd like to ask you to help. This is a sacred work that we're doing. There are 2 red blankets on the table here. And we'd like you to, I guess, just right here, lay them out. This is marking a sacred space, and we use blankets in many of our ceremonies to do this work. And so what this is doing is we're laying the blanket on the earth to demark a space for the work that's going to happen. And we do this because the earth is the mother, and that's very sacred in our culture. And so, yeah, we can layer that one right on top. And so with this, we're going to ask President Andrew Petter, and sorry, I forget your name already, Maureen, if you could please come forward. We'll get you to help out with the work here as well. So President Petter, if you could stand on the center. No, that's all right. Choose a flag. And so these blankets, in our culture, in our tradition, in our history, they were traditionally woven out of mountain goat wool, a very precious material in our culture and society. Nowadays, we use other wool from the store. It's more readily available. But as Ron said, my sister wove this with the good intention of the work that we're doing here today to recognize 10 years of exemplary service, hard work, and dedication to Indigenous faculty, students, staff, to provide that leadership, to do the reconciliation report, and many, many other things. Over the past 10 years, it's been a remarkable change. I was hired about 10 years ago, and under the guidance and leadership of this man, it's been really, really inspiring. So where we were 10 years ago seems like 50 years ago. So President Andrew Petter, we want you to wear this blanket when you need comfort, when you need warmth, to remember your time here that you spent with us. And so it's not every day that we do work like this. This is very important. So not just the 4 witnesses that we called, but everyone here, everyone watching, you are also witnesses to this. So share this knowledge, share the experience that you had at this event today. And so, and again, the headband is for keeping a calm mind, keeping yourself cool and collected. I know President Petter doesn't have any trouble with that. So, but yes, that is the work that we wanted to do today. And President Petter, of course, if you have any words to share, now's your time. And the only other duty you have today is these blankets that you're standing on. If there's someone that you would like to give those to, who have helped you out or provided support over your 10 years here at SFU, or whoever you just feel generous to today. So, but those have served their purpose. And those are, again, a reminder to everyone, not just who receives it, but to everyone about the work that we've done here today. So thank you, Che Quinquintomi. Thank you for your kind attention. Wachika.
Do I give the blankets later or as part of my speech?
Whatever you like.
Ashka, Rudy, thank you so very much. And let me start by saying what a privilege it is to be situated as we are on the unceded ancestral lands of the Coast Salish peoples, the Musqueam, the Squamish, the Tsleil-Waututh, and Coquitlam peoples who allow us, not only today, but every day, to operate as a university on Burnaby Mountain, which I know has wonderful names that I don't know, but others do, that relate to the First Nations who were on this land long before settlers came here. And let me say what a huge pleasure and privilege it is for me to receive this blanket and this honor. It has been 10 years, and 10 years has been a journey. We've had our missteps. Not every step has been forward, but I am confident that we have in the last 10 years in terms of our commitment to reconciliation, our commitment to move forward in support for Indigenous peoples and communities, that we have made many more steps in a forward direction than we have in a backward direction, imperfect as we all are. You know, the vision around the Engaged University was very much associated with the commitment that this university made, and I, as a new president, wanted to make to reconciliation, even before the Truth and Reconciliation Commission came out with its seminal report. Because engagement, if you go to the vision and what we said about it, is about mutual respect. To truly engage with others is not only to share with them your knowledge, but to have an appreciation for their knowledge and to respect their knowledge. And I learned a long time ago in government how much I had to learn and we have to learn from Indigenous peoples, and how much the settler community has to open its ears and its eyes to benefit from the relationship that can be realized through mutual respect and through walking a path together. And so coming to SFU, very mindful of the fact that educational institutions historically in this country were not only not part of promoting those mutually respectful relationships, but in fact were part of the colonization and exploitation of Indigenous peoples, not only at the residential school level, whose sad history we all know, but also universities that shut out Indigenous peoples, shut out Indigenous knowledge, that held themselves and their knowledge above that of others. Though that history was one that really prevented this country from achieving the kind of relationship that it needed to achieve at an earlier time. And so I think those of us in educational institutions like this bear a special responsibility to harness the power of education to overcome that sad history and the role that educational institutions played that was so counterproductive to the well-being and success of Indigenous communities and people, to start to support movement in a more positive direction. And so the commitment to engagement, which included as a principle respect for Indigenous peoples and culture, was really a signal and a reminder that I hope we've carried every day, that we have much to learn as a community from Indigenous knowledge and Indigenous peoples. And this is not about assisting Indigenous peoples. This is about creating a better country and a better future for everyone. Because if Indigenous peoples thrive, if First Nations thrive, we will all thrive and we will all benefit together. And then a few years after the vision, when Murray Sinclair and the commission that he led came out with its report on truth and reconciliation, we took a further step. We already had an Aboriginal strategic plan, which John Driver, as provost, was very much involved in developing before I arrived here. But when the Truth and Reconciliation report came out, I thought it was an important moment for us to move in a more rapid and meaningful direction still. And I called upon two remarkable people, two Chris's. Chris Lewis, who's now the board chair, Simon Fraser University's board, and obviously a leader with the Squamish people, and a former SFU student, to co-lead with our Dean of Education, Chris Magnuson, who had been within the university very much a leader on Indigenous initiatives, not only with his own faculty, but more broadly, to lead a process which became known as the Aboriginal Reconciliation Council. That wasn't its original name, but it was the name that it was given because the original name was not nearly as appropriate or meaningful. And I learned through that transformation of naming that this was a process in which Indigenous peoples' voices would not only be listened to, but would have real influence. And the process became a very major, meaningful exercise in better understanding as a university what we needed to do in order to be an instrument for reconciliation and to benefit as an institution from that commitment. And we stood at this very place a number of years ago, and the Aboriginal Reconciliation Council report and its calls to action to the university were given to me as a responsibility, and I responded by saying that we would accept all of those calls to action and that we would commit to move on them. And I'm pleased to say we have moved on many, not nearly far enough. And I'm just delighted that my successor, Dr. Joy Johnson, who will become president tomorrow, has said that the path of reconciliation is a priority for her, that she is very committed to continuing on that journey, to building on those calls to action, and to doing more on indigenization, on respect for Indigenous peoples, on connection with First Nations and other communities, and on making sure this university becomes even more an instrument for reconciliation and for Indigenous people's and communities' success, because that success is the success, as I say, of everyone in this country. I think we were very pleased, of course, with the announcement that was made just a month or so ago of provincial funding, which enabled us to say that the funding was now complete for a new First Peoples Gathering House, which was one of the calls to action, but in fact was a goal of this university even before I came here. And it's just warms my heart, my now warm heart, a warmer heart, and my even clearer and cooler mind to know that that project will now go ahead, because it's not just a building. It's going to be a place which will be welcoming to Indigenous students, which will be a place of learning and knowledge amongst Indigenous peoples, both from within the university and without. But it will also be a place of learning and sharing for non-Indigenous people to better understand, respect, appreciate the teachings that Indigenous peoples have to share with us all. The history, the narratives, the knowledge that is so central to a better understanding of this world, of this province, of this university, and of where we need to go in terms of building a better future for the peoples who live here. So this recognition is hugely meaningful to me. But I do need to say that what has made this journey possible has been that it has not been a journey that I have been on alone. It's been a journey we have been on together. And the support that I have been given as president, and the encouragement I've been given, notwithstanding many mistakes that I've made along the way, to move forward on the path of reconciliation has been extraordinary. It's been extraordinary from the administration, from the faculty, from students. It's been extraordinary from the First Nations communities that we have been privileged to engage with over this time, from the Indigenous community within the university that has been so welcoming of me and so supportive of me personally, but has done so much and lifted so much heavy weight to enable us to move forward. I'm a little daunted by the suggestion that I have to give 2 blankets to 2 people, because I could give these blankets to everyone that's here. And I feel reluctant to single out any, but I think I will give 1 blanket to Chris Magnuson, who was so instrumental in moving this university forward in indigenization, and I don't believe was called as a witness. Am I right? So, Chris, this is in lieu of being called as a witness, so you can share more fully in the ceremony that has occurred here. I think I'll also give now here it gets very, very difficult as to who would give a blanket. But I think I will give a blanket to Ron. Ron, you probably have a lot of blankets, but you have, and the Office of Aboriginal Peoples has been so instrumental in supporting the university and its students, and helping us to better understand the value of Indigenous knowledge, and you helped me to build a drum. And that's a metaphor for helping us all to learn how to celebrate Indigenous culture and to benefit from it. So I don't know if I should pick them up and present them. Maybe I'll just say that they are yours to pick up and to thank you. But really, I could be giving blankets to everyone here. I do want to say a special word about Joanne. Joanne Curry welcomed me to this university even before I was president. She has played so many roles, but certainly in the last number of years, she has been so important to the support on Indigenous initiatives, both outside the university and the MOUs that we have signed and are about to sign, but also within the university. And you and Shobna and others within your portfolio have done so much. Sue, ceremonies and events, you deserve a blanket too. But ceremonies and events, I've often said this university has the best team working on ceremonies and events, and it's so important that we celebrate success And, you know, that isn't often understood by people across universities. I think it is understood by Indigenous peoples, that we celebrate, that we commemorate, that ceremony is an important aspect of learning and validating. And our ceremonies and events teams does that. And Sue, you and Gloria and the team have done remarkable things in helping to celebrate the journey that we're still on in terms of reconciliation in Indigenous peoples. And Heichka, I thank you for that. Chris, your leadership on the board has been extraordinary. John, you too welcomed me here, and you had already set us on the direction of reconciliation even before that word became as current as it now is, with the establishment of the Office of Aboriginal Peoples, as it then was, I guess it still is, and the first strategic plan that we've built on and that has helped us get this far. Michelle, you've been hugely important in so many different ways, and most recently in really doing deep and broad work on pathways to make sure that we welcome more students here and do it in a good way. So I thank you and Gary, you with the Office of Aboriginal Peoples, and Karen, you as well. There's so many people here and faculty members like Peter who supported us along the way. And Rudy, I am so honored to have a TV star of your stature. And I'm not talking about your height, that's pretty good too. But if anyone has made the mistake of missing an episode of Wild Archaeology, you've got to take it in. It's a wonderful program. Its star is Rudy Reimer. And Rudy, I want to thank you for everything you've done in support of this journey within the university. I know you do that every day. You do it in your teaching, you do it in your scholarship, you do it in your community contributions, whether it's through TV or otherwise. I want to thank you for having a sister who can weave beautiful blankets of this kind. And I just want to say thank you to this entire community for making it possible for us to make some progress in this so important journey, not only for the university, but for this country. And I want to encourage you to continue to support my successor, who I know is as committed to moving forward as I have been. And with your support, we will be able to see much further progress in the years ahead as that road to reconciliation becomes closer and closer to what I hope is a very happy and meaningful destination. Thank you so very much. Heichka. Heichka.
Wachika Siam, thank you for your words and your leadership once again. And so, for those who these blankets now belong, you can come collect them. But to sort of round out our work today, thank you for your patience. And we'd now like to call our 4 witnesses to come up and share some words about the work that's been done today. And we'll start with my relative, Chris, if you'd like to come forward first. The microphone is yours.
Hatsqual Tanoyap, Siams, Siai. As you can tell, I'm not used to using a microphone in ceremonies like this, but I'll do it for the webcast. We tend to do it from the floor. First of all, want to recognize the family, the Office of Aboriginal Peoples, and Ron and your leadership for conducting this event, this ceremony today. I stand before you as a board of governor and the chair of the board, also as a leader of the Skohotmishokumilk. It's been an honor working with President Petter. I want to thank Ron and his team for gathering a small group of people on Andrew's last day to stand him up to Nsemco. I want to thank my brother Yumsk for not saying no and being the voice of the family. It's really important that the family hires someone to be their voice and conduct this ceremony as this mentioned. I want to thank the helpers who laid down the blankets, Michelle. The blankets signify in our culture and traditions a new beginning. As you notice, they weren't used, they were brand new. It signifies that new journey that our president is going to embark upon tomorrow. He's going to enter into a different space, into a different world. And the Office of Aboriginal Peoples, the family and the family that is here today wanted to Nsemco the president to make sure on his journey into tomorrow that he's not alone, that he has that love and support and everything that went into that blanket around him. I would be remiss if I didn't thank Maureen and Andrew's family for giving us such a great leader, for making the sacrifice over the last 10 years. Because I know Andrew worked many long hours. Being a president of the university isn't a 9-to-5 job. It's 24/7. And who we have to thank is Maureen, the family. I also want to thank Andrew's mentors, his teachers, the ones that lift him up and taught. And the one thing I learned about Andrew is he listens. He listens and he learns from every experience that he has. And he mentioned it in his speech that I have listened through the 10 years and I've witnessed Andrew listen to how to conduct things. Because in the modern world and as being president of a large institution like Simon Fraser University, everything has to go really quick. And I remember the work around reconciliation, the work around making this a safe and welcoming space for Indigenous peoples and all peoples of the world, that we needed to do it slow. We needed to listen. We needed to listen to what we needed to do as an institution. And I want to thank Andrew for his leadership in that. When we went to the Indigenous communities and talked about this initiative, as co-chair, my brother Chris Magnuson and I, there was great admiration for our president because he was a trailblazer. He wanted to do something new. He wanted to do something innovative. He wanted to do something right. And what we heard through those conversations is that our president has been a champion for reconciliation, decolonization, ensuring that as an Indigenous person we can conduct these ceremonies in this great hall without fear of being chastised or wondering what's going on. I remember when we transformed this great hall to hand over the ARC report to our president and say, this whole hall was filled. Even people that weren't invited were standing up. And we are in interesting times. There's a global pandemic. Our teachings tell us to be still. Our teachings tell us to be humble. And I do want to thank Ron for his humbleness and being very strategic in terms of how this has been done. But on behalf of myself, and I know if my colleagues on the board could be here and maybe they're watching, they got the invite. On behalf of the board, Andrew, we're going to miss you. Thank you for your leadership, your advocacy. When I was driving up to this mountain, I was thinking, we're going to be Nsemcoing the president. What does that actually mean? And as we wrap you, it's a testament to you wrapping this entire university, not just this campus, all 3 campuses, with your arms, with your blanket. And we have had your warmth and your compassion and your feelings for the last 10 years. So we are giving that back to you today, so that when you embark upon the new journey, you have that. And we want to recognize that big blanket that you've had around us as a university for the last 10 years, and recognize everything that you've accomplished in it. And I want to thank you on behalf of the board, on behalf of the people that are here. Chinqua Mentomi, I am grateful for this honor to be a witness. I will take this home to my people and to my family and be a verifier that this work has happened. Tamak Kwitsi Snachum, those are my words, and that's the way it is. Osium.
Yeah, I wanted to ask my Gwopits, my relative, to speak first, but those who were also called as witnesses, you can fight it out from here to who speaks next. But I see John's here.
Thank you, Rudy, and thank you for being the master of ceremonies, if that's the right term today. I actually, in addition to recognizing and honoring Andrew today, everybody here has made huge contributions to the advancement of reconciliation at SFU, and Ron and the Office for Aboriginal Peoples, the work that you do every day and the work that you've done for so many years is really important. Chris, the amazing work you did on the ARC report and now the process of moving that forward with the help of Joanne, who is co-chairing the group that is trying to move the recommendations forward. And if we want a fantastic example of that, we look at Michelle's work on the Pathways program. Thank you, Michelle. That's just a fantastic piece of work. And I really look forward to getting started on making that happen and working with all your recommendations. So to everybody here, I also want to recognize that we are settlers on the traditional unceded territory of the many nations that our campuses stand on, and the many communities from which we draw our students, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous, who come here to learn. I have a special place in my heart for Rudy because he was once my research assistant. But the work that we do is gradual work, and I know that's frustrating sometimes. But I wanted to tell you, it's sort of an SFU related story, but I think I'll tell it here because I don't think many people know about it. And it also talks about Andrew a little bit too. So 10 years ago, an organization that SFU is a member of, which is the Western Canadian Universities Marine Sciences Society, that runs the Bamfield Marine Sciences Center in Hawaiian territory, wrote a letter to the Hawaiian saying, we will support you in building a wastewater treatment plant for the community that we live in, out on the west coast of Vancouver Island. And it took us 10 years, but on Friday, I went down and signed the agreement between our society, of which SFU is a member, and the Hawaiian to construct a new sewage treatment plant in the community where our science center sits on Hawaiian traditional territory. And that only happened because of the backing that we got from the universities who are the members of this society. And it only happened because presidents like Andrew wrote us a check to pay for our society's portion of the cost of putting this wastewater treatment plant in. Now, this may seem like a fairly small piece of reconciliation, but what it does is it allows the Hawaiian to build more houses and to develop their community economically. It allows the community to join into a wastewater treatment system that will no longer pollute the inlet that we're all situated on. And it will allow the Science Center to continue the work of educating students and supporting researchers, many of whom now incorporate Indigenous knowledge and Indigenous perspectives into their community. So Andrew actually played a small part in this because he wrote the check. The bigger part was 10 years of discussion and negotiation, but Andrew, that's the kind of support that you give all the time for the projects. It's the push from behind. It's Andrew saying to me one day, John, why don't you have a program to hire more Indigenous faculty members? I think you should do it. He didn't tell me exactly how to do it, but he made sure that I moved along in that direction. It's Andrew working behind the scenes to set up the reconciliation process at SFU. It's Andrew continuing to support the Office for Aboriginal Peoples, continuing to support the indigenization of the curriculum at the university, and encouraging all of us to play a role, however small, in doing the right thing. So Andrew, I really thank you. You've pushed me in ways that I needed to be pushed, and I know everybody here joins me in thank you. Thank you.
I just remembered Ron was explaining the blankets, and he mentioned the arbutus tree, and one of our place names that's just down at the base of the mountain here, which is more commonly known as Barnett Marine Park. And that place name is often applied to this mountain in modern day. And it's a bit of a tongue twister, but just a little more sort of cultural education today. It's Thuk Thlokwai Huayton, and that's the place of peeling arbutus bark. And for us, these are sacred trees. They are medicine for us. But for our relatives in some of their history, that's where they tied their canoes to when the Great Flood occurred. So just sharing a little more history about that place name. You mentioned the tree, and I forgot to do that at the opening. So just to add some extra meaning to that blanket, and the inlet, we refer to that as Tsleil-Waututh, or that's our relatives. They are the people of Indian Arm and this end of the inlet here. So there's lots more that I could go on about, and but this is again that education, sharing about knowledge and place about what we're doing today. So our next witness is all ready, so I'll turn it over to you.
Great, and I am wearing my Tsleil-Waututh scarf in honor of one of our other important First Nation communities. What a emotional day this is for all of us, and I was so happy to hear about this blanketing ceremony, and thank Ron and the office for doing it. This is Andrew Petter's last day, and I think it was so significant, and I don't know if this was behind the choice of location, but to be in Convocation Mall, because that is what our efforts in the Aboriginal Reconciliation Council were all about. How do we welcome more Indigenous students? How do we better support them? How do we graduate? And last year was our largest ever Indigenous graduating class. And so when Michelle and I looked at each other, who would go next, I'm letting her go last, because I think the work that she's outlined in Pathways is the critical next step. So looking forward to hearing from her. But it's just such an honor to witness this blanketing ceremony. People have talked about Andrew's leadership, and I would add good choice in Chris and Chris to lead the Aboriginal Reconciliation Council. That was the best decision you ever made. But for all of us that worked with you, for me personally, it has been a learning journey. I have learned so much by being an ally and being part of the Aboriginal Reconciliation Council and subsequent processes. I wouldn't have guessed where there's still such a long journey to go. But just that understanding of listening, the year of listening dangerously, I think one of you called it, and really understanding and talking, but also moving forward, but not too quickly, go slow to go fast, all these words of wisdom. But we have made such great progress, removing colonial art that's been talked about for many decades, the First Peoples Gathering House. So Andrew, you set us off on an incredible by championing this area, by contributing wisdom, resources, and your commitment. You've really set us on an incredible path together. And the community at SFU and our local communities, we're all looking forward to working together. So thank you for all of your leadership. I look forward to supporting the next president and all of us here to continue on our journey together. Thank you.
Just let me raise my hands in deep thanks and appreciation, Andrew, for you and to your family. As Chris mentioned, it's a It's a journey of a family that takes on this work, your own family, the extended family here of SFU, and then the extended family of the communities and territories on which we share. I'm Michelle Pigeon. I'm of Mi'kmaq ancestry from Newfoundland. I'm a faculty member in the Faculty of Education. I'm proudly based at the SFU Surrey campus. And so I want to acknowledge the Kwantlen, Katzie, Kaikat, and Semiahmoo nations who also share these territories with our Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish brothers and sisters. It's an honor to be called as a witness. It's important work that we do here today as a way of remembering your legacy. 10 years of leadership is nothing to joke about. It's a long time to be served as a president. The changes that you've made, the impact that you've had, I'm sure the walls will speak of the stories, and the legacy of that work will continue on beyond today, and I think that's important to hold here. It's hard work when you take on leadership. It's important work to be called to this kind of role, and to take it on with such dedication and passion, I think is really important. You've been instrumental in how this institution has shifted its view of indigeneity, its place for Indigenous peoples, and its relationship to the communities that you've started us on that commitment of path, of responsibility, of speaking truth when the truth needs to be told, and also reconciling a lot of the hurt and the pain that has come from the impact of colonization, the role institutions like this one have played in that. But you've also set us on this path of healing. And I think that path of healing is the one that we want to lift you up for today. The number of Indigenous faculty members that have been hired under your leadership, and thank you for giving John that nudge, has made a testament to the commitment of the institution to actually bring Indigenous knowledges in. How we speak about that in our collective agreement matters to Indigenous faculty as we come in and we want to bring who we are in whole spirit, body, culture, mind. And it also speaks to the role of our students, because without our Indigenous students, my work is nothing. I'm here for the students. I'm here to make an impact. And so when the students tell me that this is a better place to be, it's a safe place for them to come learn, their families feel comfortable wanting to send them there. Nations are making choices about where they send their students, and they're choosing SFU as the campus of choice for their nation. That says a lot about your impact. And the legacy of that relationship with those nations will continue on as generations come forward, as you see family members continuing on that legacy. And we see that in our graduating classes every year. The same family names keep coming around because the families know this is a good place to send their students. And in the work of the Pathways Project and speaking to the communities, they definitely spoke to the importance of that relationship, the importance of listening to what the communities need and having SFU partner with them in those meaningful ways, and supporting students holistically so that they can come here and understand who they are as Indigenous peoples, be empowered by who they are as Indigenous peoples, and leave better for it because of the education and the experiences that they learn here. I want to hold my hands up too to Marcia and the work of the Indigenous Students Center. I know she can't be here today, she's ill. But I think the role of that center and the role of that support services that we wrap around our students, it's not just about the academics when you come to this place, it's the whole experience. And I think that's something else the Pathways Project spoke to about. I know people have spoken about the need to continue the good work. There's also a need to pick up this work and continue it on, and it's not just done. We have lots of work to continue to do. We have hard conversations to be had, but we also have to hold up the good work that has happened and continue in that good way, in that good spirit and good mind and good hearts, and continue that work in ways that leave the next 10 years in another generation of students will come through, another generation of leaders will come through, and hopefully 10 years from today we'll even be able to say we've made that journey even forward. So on to your next journey, Andrew. I lift my hands up to you. I hope you paddle well, stay strong, enjoy your time with your family. And to the rest of the institution, I look forward to the changes of our leadership, the commitments that the institution has made to indigenization, decolonization, and reconciliation. And I look forward to seeing where the next 10 years take us as an institution. Thank you.
Wachika, Ust'am, to all our speakers, our witnesses today, not just the four that we called, but all of you who are here physically or watching online, you are all witnesses to this work today. So just as hearing the good words that are for Ust'am, people who came and spoke about the past 10 years, I was thinking about themes, listening to you. There's been a lot of transformation, there's been a lot of change, and there's a really strong legacy that we can build upon and move forward with. So that just reminds myself of down in Stanley Park, another part of our territory. Many of you probably recognize that big rock. I don't want to call it by its English name, but Salish means to stand up. And President Petter, we wanted to stand you up in that fashion because the legacy that you've left here, the transformation that has changed, that rock is a transformed person. The Hahais or the Transformers came and made a big difference to make the land suitable for people to live. And indeed, that's what you've done. And so thank you for that. And again, thinking back at our history, over the years, we've given President Petter a number of things. I think Ron or Andrew, you mentioned the drum. And again, this goes back to our history at the time of the Great Flood, when the waters covered our lands. And our people only had enough time to grab their most precious possessions. And they would have been blankets like this to stay warm. But also drums are very important because that's how we convey our history. We share through celebration, how we form social bonds together. And also a box to put those things in. And so if many of you know me well, I like photography a lot, and there's a collection of lenses that every photographer should have. And so traditionally in our culture, you have that sort of collection now. You have the box, you have the blankets, and you have the drum. And these are things that you can use to carry forward to, as Chris said, starting that new journey to ensure that you're safe. You have all the things that you need. And so we feel comfortable now that we've given you the last piece of that collection. So with that, that's wrapping up our work here today. I believe we're going to sing a song or two in honor of you, Andrew Petter, President. Last day, it must be exciting. So if anybody has a drum and would like to join in, feel free. My cousin and I will get warmed up a little and decide what we're going to sing. But Hochika, that's all. That concludes the work today. Thank you for your patience. So.
I'd like to just also mention that there are a couple of gifts over there for the speakers. Also, I'd like to thank all of the speakers, the witnesses, all the people that contributed to the success of this event. I'd like to thank you from the bottom of my heart. And President Petter, I just want you to know that you really have made a huge difference here at SFU. I've had a long relationship with SFU, and I'd like to thank you from the bottom of my heart about all the good work that you've done. Thank you so much. Yes, you may.
I don't know if it's culturally appropriate for me to come back up here, but thank you all for your wonderful words. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention the amazing work that's been done by our Indigenous Students Center, and I should have referenced that earlier. And Marcia, I didn't realize Marcia was ill, so I hope she's going to be in good health again soon. But for me, when we decided to move forward and develop that Indigenous Students Center, and now, of course, thanks to the ARC report, it'll be expanded, it really is so important because it is all about students. And I do want to acknowledge the work of all those, the elders and others who work in the Indigenous Students Center and who have helped not only Indigenous students, but the whole community to understand what we need to do to ensure that Indigenous students who come here are welcomed and supported. So, Haichika to the Indigenous Students Center as well.
Would all the witnesses please come forward to accept a small thank you for helping us with this important work. And also, Rudy, I want to thank you so much on behalf of the SFU Indigenous family for helping us to do this important work. We also have a small gift for you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for making time to come today. I raise my hands and all of you. Thank you so much.